So as we now move past that, and now we're going to talk about, the meat and potatoes. We're going to talk about what's happening in terms of the Clippers, especially what happened last night. You already know that basically, it was a big game, and it was the Clippers. They were at home versus the Suns, and the Suns just faced the Utah Jazz in a single overtime game, the night before. But, this is what elite looks like, and, you can see Chris Paul was fatigued. You can see that, because you don't do back-to-back type of things. You don't really do that shit. So you can see he was fatigued. You can see that he was kind of affected and stuff like that. But even then, the Clippers, man, it was a close game back and forth, literally nip-tuck type of battle, whatever they say. And it was literally like within 5, and it was literally close all the time until, obviously, now that, what happened? Yeah, until the end. It was the end now when Paul George started putting in that work. Kawhi did a 1-2 bucket. Rondo was there, and they made a push. Basically, right after the Pat Bev, incident where he got ejected, now the whole team turned it around. I don't know if it's just for Pat Bev, but I think the intensity was rose and was already, like, their intensity defensively has already been there. That's never been a knock. So, the Clippers in general, they're looking solid again. They still have Ibaka missing because that would change the whole dynamic, right? That would change the whole dynamic in terms of ability, in terms of the pick and pop and the threat that Ibaka possesses. So, obviously, we're still waiting for him to come back. But this is the second game for Pat Bev coming back. Third game, I think, for Chris Paul. Rondo coming back. And, I know a lot of y'all are going to be like, see, they needed a playmaker. They needed this. They needed that. And a lot of y'all have been saying that, and especially probably a lot of y'all are like, well, Banks, what is he talking about? He said no playmakers need and stuff like that. Then you hear PG saying how he likes, Rondo being there. He's the intangible things he does. Now he don't have to always, play make and be the one to initiate offenses. Him and Kawhi interchangeably. They could actually have Rondo do that. Like you've seen at the end, Rondo ran a 1-3 pick and roll with Kawhi and then dime Kawhi on the slip and got an and one, right? So, like, they don't have to just ISO in these situations. You could literally use Rondo, and based off that, especially, like, obviously a game-by-game basis, but based by that, you could actually see, where it's coming from. You can actually see where it's coming from. So, at the end of the day, when I say PG, like, when I say Rondo, playmaking-wise has been, something that wasn't necessarily like, so let me rephrase it like this. When I say Rondo isn't playmaking in the exact same way that people expected, I mean that Rondo and the term for the the term for the Clippers was, they need a playmaker. They need a playmaker ASAP. They can't win without a playmaker. They need a PG. They need a playmaker. Enough of Kawhi, enough of PG. Paul George, ball handling OD and basically dictating everything and facilitating, doing all the works, right? That's kind of was the message and kind of was a narrative. And the reason why I said Rondo isn't as much, he's a great addition, but he isn't as much as the addition as you think, and what y'all expected him to be, because, his addition right now is, sparing minutes, obviously low tier type of minutes. Let's see what kind of minutes he did. He did 19 minutes. It was better this time because, remember, Pat Bev got ejected and then, and stuff like that. But normally he's playing, like 15, 15-ish type of minutes. And in his 15 minutes, obviously he does a lot of work and the intangible things. And that will never change. Even in this game, Rondo had, plus 24. The man had how many points? The man had 15 points. That's what he had. Sorry, he had 15 points. 3 for 4 from the 3, 5 for 8 total. And obviously that aggression has been, ramping up a little bit. And you're going to need that from Rondo. But what I'm saying is, he, like you've seen, this game, obviously, he did a lot of great playmaking. He had 9 assists this game. So he was more playmaking and facilitating more this game. But, the way he's facilitating is still kind of within their offense and how they move with their up tempo and stuff like that. And a lot of it transition coming down, dime, hit platoon, hit this guy. That type of playmaking was, obviously a boost and stuff like that. But what I was trying to say is the magnitude that they have Rondo or getting the Clippers needing a playmaker on, Rondo isn't matching that type of magnitude and context and connotation that everyone was expecting, saying that the Clippers need to win. And that's why I was there saying, it's a bonus if they get that type of playmaker. It's not a necessity. They could win without it, right? Having this boost and having this, bonus and addition in terms of, Rondo playmaking and stuff like that, obviously it's going to be a boost. But, he's still coming off the bench. He's not starting. Like, people were saying they need Lonzo. They need Derrick Rose. Like, those were the fish they were trying to attract. So when you look at it from that perspective, you get in Rondo and he's playing a bench role, a lower tier role, but he can still impact the game, obviously. That's never a debate for Rondo. It's Rondo. And even playoff even increases level of play. But what I was trying to say is that the kind of expectation that people, or the narrative that people were spewing for the Clippers, which was the type of PG or the type of caliber PG that they need in terms of winning, is X, Y, and Z. And Rondo right now isn't doing that X, Y, and Z that everyone expected. And that's what I was trying to highlight, right? So, like I said, there's going to be times like you even see he's in the corner in the clutch. He's not involved in the play, stuff like that. Like the way people were acting was as if they need a point guard for every play. Like that's where I was trying to debunk that shit. So, obviously Rondo is definitely important. Like he does all the intangibles, does all the little things, right? Like those are things that he does that help and propel the team to get that dub. And Rondo is definitely a huge factor, especially come playoff time. He's going to be a main factor, with those intangibles, especially down the stretch. What do we do here? Running the show with that cerebral type of IQ. Okay, you know what, Kawhi, we're going to do a pick and roll, me and you. If that's not working, here you go, PG, go to work, go in your bag, ISO, or do a pick, and, a pick with Zubac or whoever, or Ibaka. Kawhi, go to the mid post, direct him. How Rondo go, yeah. That's all you hear from Rondo all the time on the court, right? So he's going to dictate. He's going to, he's always going to talk it out. He's going to tell mans what defenses we're running or what sets these guys are running. Watch that. You see he's going to come off the curl, slip that. You know what I'm saying? He's going to come off the curl, cheat the screen, and steal that pass. You know what I'm saying? He's going to do this is guaranteed. This is the play. Cut it off, right? Stuff, little things like that go a long way, especially in playoffs. It goes a long way. So, Rondo is definitely important, hella important. And then now you look at it from the Clippers perspective, like now you add the Rondo factor with the playmaking, and they already were a top leading, the number one 3-point shooting team in the NBA and high efficiency in terms of their field goals. And they were always top in that. But, now you're seeing better flow from Kawhi. You're seeing better flow from PG and stuff like that. It adds up, especially there's multiple factors. Like I said, the last time, Pat Bev now guarding the perimeter. Pat Bev now, focusing on Booker, trying to pad him and try to do these type of things, even though Booker said he's a baby, right? Basically, Pat Bev, trying to lock up and do those things now alleviates, Paul George, alleviates Kawhi Leonard in terms of defensively. So now they can focus more so on offense, just get a bucket. Or, they're not as fatigued. And all these little things, like I said, the intangible things, they're the little big things when it really matters, right? At the end of the day. So, that's what kind of was, I'm looking at their play style and I'm just like, yo, there's a lot of ball movement. There's a lot of 3-point chucking. There's a lot of, spacing. There's a lot of handoffs, pick and roll and just IQ, up-tempo pace and space. Like they're at a high tempo. They weren't always at this high tempo, right? A lot of ISO coming on the court. My fault, coming on the court. PG ISO coming on the court. Kawhi ISO. Now they're actually changing things in terms of just Rondo's presence, and even before Rondo's presence, even like with the starting lineup, they're not just ISOing. They're just now it's like they're cognizant of the actual fact that we could just push the tempo, and we can get easy buckets and go and strap to get that tempo to be pushed. It starts from defense. You can't push the tempo on always made back baskets. They're going to be back, and it's not the same. You want to push the tempo and have high tempo, high pace on misses. So you got to force them to miss. So you're looking at it like, I like what I see from the Clippers. I like what I see overall. You know what I mean? Ty Lue, at the end of the day, has been doing a great job. And even with the hindrances, even with the non-clutch games and non-clutch performances, and even with all those type of things, they're still they're still number 3, you know, in the conference. So when you look at it, their record is still the record that it is. So they can only move up from here, not go down. So, you know, my worry for the Clippers is starting to drop. I still have to see them in the clutch to even get a full assessment. And that's what I would really want to see. I would want to see what Rondo does in the clutch. Is Rondo the dictator in the clutch? Or is Rondo in the corner in the clutch? Like, those answers still need to be answered, right? As much as, you know, it was a great win for the Clippers. And not only that, this was even a better, more of a just a great win or a schedule loss, if anything, because you look at the Suns, they have a tough back-to-back. Utah on the road, or Utah at home, and then Clippers on the road, right? You look at that. That's a tough back-to-back. That's number 1 and 3, just like that. The first seed you face, and then you face the third seed. And it's a back-to-back. So now you add fatigue. You add, you know, all those things, not fully resting. Like, that's why I could see Chris Paul was huffing and puffing in the first, you know, and when he was playing in the first half, stuff like that, like getting sloppy turnovers, not paying attention. And that's what happens when you're hella fatigued, you know, you start losing, you know, the brain cells, everything, because you're so tired. You're not thinking fully. You don't do the little things, you know what I'm saying? All those type of things. And it matters, right? So when you look at that from that perspective, I said, I like the Clippers. I like what they were doing. And I like the ability, PG-13, if he could always do this, or at least do this 8, 7, even 6 times out of 10, is going to be a problem for any team facing the Clippers. Straight problem, because PG, you could see, you know, that this change and the 1-2 chain has benefited him a lot, and you could see that, right? So, you know, we'll see how they move in terms of the Clippers. I like what I saw. Don't get too amped again. It's the Suns with this is a schedule loss for them. But at the end of the day, you can be excited about certain little things that did transpire, you know, in terms of the Clippers and stuff like that. So when you look at it from that perspective, like, you know, at the end of the day, we'll see how that goes. You know, as well as you know, honestly, now that I think about it, there might be a question later down the line if Rondo might start or not. Like, the fact that he got those 9 assists and stuff like that, we'll see if that is the question, because you still want Pat Bev. Like, I would still want Pat Bev started just for defensive purposes, but that is something that might be a dilemma for Ty Lue come playoff time. Maybe one series he starts him. You know, they might interchange, stuff like that. You know how, like, Dwight Howard, McGee, and AD and Marcus Morris were like the big men, how they like were used for certain series and starting for certain series and used for certain series. Like, that kind of context can be applied for the Rondo Pat Bev, because they're 2 different type of bigs. 2 different type of point guards, right? It's the same thing where that same case is going to go for Zubats and Ibaka. 2 different type of bigs, right? So it depends on what play style is needed given on the series, given on the situation. You know, that's why we say the KYP, know your personnel, right? So we'll see how that all plays out, right? At the end of the day, you already know. I appreciate y'all. You know, share, like, and subscribe. We out here. There's no doubt here. There's no drought here. You feel me? I appreciate y'all. Like I said, you know, we ramping it up. You know, we trying. We going to work. See me when I work. Always, man. Bruh, you know, this is what elite looks like. We grinding out here. I appreciate y'all. Again, if you follow me on here and you subscribe to the channel, or if you're not, subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't, go follow me on my IG, my Instagram. You know, go follow me on those pages, because basically the ball context continues. It's buckets over everything, skill over everything, right? Always continues. And this is what elite looks like. Thank you for coming for that IQ, because that's what I do. I appreciate y'all. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, man. That's what elite looks like, man. You know, the Clippers look like they might be turning it around real quick. So that second seed might not be held, right? Might not be held for long. We'll see how it goes and how it plays out. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, you already know. And I'm out, man.